Hey, I want to tell this story again. I already made a video about this in the first couple weeks that I made this channel, and I'm guessing that a lot of people will never go back that far. And so I wanted to talk about this again because I was just, I think that in my current human form, there's just something about me that I want to experience life in a normal way. When I had my first spiritual awakening, I was afraid that I was getting too far into the esoteric, the whatever, and I wanted to just come back to real life. There's something to me about the day-to-day experience of just being a human that I'm not eager to leave behind. I'm not interested in, are there aliens out there? And I'm not interested in life after death. I don't want to see ghosts. I just like something about being a human and all of the messy physical shit that goes into that. And so while I'm deeply aware of the fact that my mind and my intentions are creating everything, I lapse back into the human experience automatically, because that's where I want to be, I think. And so I wanted to talk about how, the intentional manifestation of things that we want is as natural to a human being as breathing. People do it. Every person does it all day, every day. It may not seem that way because of the way it's presented to you via like The Secret or whatever. But all The Secret is talking about is using something that you already do and adding a conscious element to it so that you can direct it rather than just sort of living unawares in this human experience. That's my take on it. And so having been aware of this, the reality of this for the last couple of decades, I can look at this, I can look at my life and see how these things have happened for me, from start to finish, to illustrate the truth behind that this is something that you just do. And I think a good place to look, if you want to see how this works with people that aren't phrasing it, or aren't into The Secret, into the law of attraction, into Neville Goddard, into whatever, all you have to do is start studying successful people. If you study successful people and you see how they did it, you will see some things in common. One, they always knew that they were going to do it. Like, giving up wasn't an option, that certainty was always there. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's almost always some element of having visualized the outcome and just knowing that they were a part of that outcome. And then the third thing that seems to be highly debated is almost every person you will study who is very successful was very dedicated to whatever it is that they were trying to do. They didn't visualize it and then sit around waiting for it to happen. They took action, they did stuff. Anyway, there's a very long 4-minute intro into this story, but I'm trying not to remember how I told this story last time because it's been like 5 months since I was thinking about it and a lot's happened. So the best example that I have of wanting something, not knowing how I was going to get it, and then having it delivered up to me in the way that, all of these books promise will happen, has to do with my business. And when I look back on first of all, I don't think there was any in my mind intention. I didn't think, I can't get this thing I want, so I'm going to think about, consciously manifesting it and actually try to apply, something to it. I did this absolutely naturally. And the only thing that I can say is that I've been aware of this for a long time. That's the only element of conscious creation that went into this, is maybe that I had an underlying awareness that it works this way. But I wanted to carry a particular thing in my business, a product line. And I'm going to tell this in a much more truncated fashion than I did last time. I'll link to that video if you want all of the gory details. I wanted to carry a product line for my store. And when I went to apply for a wholesale account to start carrying that product, the rep for my area, after running me around for a long time, finally admitted that he and his superiors or something didn't think that my store was good enough to carry their product. And this is absurd. My store carries everything. I have equally high-end products in my store already at this time. It made absolutely no sense. I was ready to spend, right out the gate, I was ready to spend probably $100,000 getting their products into my store, which in my industry is an enormous amount of money, and no company that is providing products wholesale to stores like mine is big enough or strong enough to be turning away $100,000. And so I just thought, wow, this is an insane injustice. But there was no way around this decision. Basically, it was final. If you apply and whoever decides whether you can get it or not says no, it's not like you can appeal it, as far as I know. I was just like, well, wow, that is just not right. This was a huge part of my future plan for my business. And, it really sucks that I can't have it. It was something I really wanted and had, definitely, it was a part of moving forward in my mind, a solid, cemented part of, the future of my enterprise. So as you can imagine, that threw me for a loop. I mean, I in no way needed this for my financial security. I didn't need it in any way. It was just something that fit in, that belonged there, that I knew would be a great opportunity for my customers to have, something else they could buy from me. I knew I was going to make a ton of money off this because I knew my customers wanted it. And of course, that benefits the company providing the products because they want to sell products. It just did not make sense. And I didn't accept this. But there was nothing I could do about it too. So how that ended up playing out for me was over about a period of the next 6 or 7 months, I would put it out of my mind because it bothered me and I didn't have a solution. In my mind, I thought maybe in the future, I'll, rebrand. When I really get to the point where I'm retired and I can just sort of do what I want, maybe I'll rebrand the store. And retirement for me is within the next couple of years. Maybe I'll just rebrand the store, make it seem more upscale, and just kind of change things around. And then I'll reapply and they'll accept me or whatever. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I hit a roadblock here, but eventually, if I really want to, I can rectify this. That was how I comforted myself, because it was just wrong to me. It was just wrong. I can't explain it. But every now and then, over the next 6 months or so, I would remember what had happened. I would think about it while I was thinking about the future of my business. And I would think, I would feel kind of humiliated that I was told my stuff wasn't good enough. And I felt the injustice. I felt kind of pissed off at the snooty sales rep that, just kind of ignored me for over a month and then rejected me. And I would just my mind would just kind of go there, linger there. The feelings would start to feel really shitty. And I would go, oh, I don't want to feel crappy. I don't need them. This is irrelevant to me, my life, my happiness. This really isn't a big deal. But like, I repeated that process multiple times. And there was, of course, a very strong intention. Every time I thought about it, my intention was to have those things in my store. My brain, my 3D hamster wheel was just spinning, saying, going through the whole thing, trying to find a solution again, not being able to find it, and kind of just giving up and going, well, I don't need it. If it doesn't happen, oh well. So anyway, the way that this ended up playing out, which I think if you think about, how things are promised to come to you in a way that if you can't see a way will be provided, that kind of thing. Out of nowhere, out of absolutely nowhere, 6 months later, in the month of January, which is the busiest month for my business, I was completely preoccupied with manufacturing, selling my own products, which is what my business does, in addition to reselling other people's stuff. And just the month of January, I am not present anywhere but at work. Not including this year when I was basically only present on this YouTube channel and on the Neville Goddard subreddit. But during this particular year, I was absolutely not there. My mind was not on this. And out of nowhere, I got an email from a rep for another company that I had met with, whose products I didn't like and didn't end up carrying. But I had met with this guy one time, and while we were together, this was prior to me getting rejected by the company I wanted. While we were sitting together talking, he asked me who else I was planning on carrying. I mentioned this company that rejected me. I said, I really love their stuff. I'm planning on getting an account with them for sure. And he happened to mention, oh, my wife is the rep for them in Illinois, and it's too bad we're not in Illinois because I could just set you up right now. I was like, oh, yeah, that sucks. And that was that. In January of the following year, this guy sends me an email, and the email says, hi, remember me? We met last March. I am now the rep for the company that rejected me. And I see that you don't have an account. And I remember you saying that you wanted to carry the products here. Do you want me to set you up with an account? Just I have your info from when we met last March. So you don't even need to do that. All I need you to do is like fax over XYZ that I don't have, and I'll set you up. That was how the problem resolved itself. This random person that I had met for 20 minutes, long prior to being rejected by this company, was who ended up facilitating the thing that I wanted to happening. Out of nowhere. Like, that may not seem remarkable to you, at first blush, but, that was literally the only person that could have come into that position to give me that account, because he was the only one who knew me. If a random rep had been hired in place of that snooty rep, they wouldn't have known who I was. They wouldn't have been looking through their Rolodex, seeing who they knew that didn't have an account. Just this one guy. He was the only one. I wouldn't have known that rep was gone. I wouldn't have thought to reapply for an account. Like, this is the way things work. And I told this story to a friend of mine who, said, yeah, my take on that would just be like, like, that's funny how the way things work out. Yeah, it's funny how things work out. And it's not random the way things work out. That's the bottom line. So, any worry that something that you want won't happen is wasted. This is the way things have been gotten for every person throughout their life. This isn't new. The only difference is becoming conscious of it and adding certain conscious elements to it. I think people spend a lot of time and effort on trying to consciously manifest something, you don't have to do it that way. You just have to be sure that you're going to get everything you want. You just have to be sure. That's the difference between how you were doing things before and not being successful, and how you'll do things in the future and be successful. You could forget every single thing that you have read or learned about conscious manifestation or any of the techniques. You could go right back to the way you've always done things. And the only element that you really need, the only difference that really matters, is that you are sure that you will get everything you want. That's it. No longer when somebody exits your life do you think, well, I hope they come back to me. You just know that they will, if that's what you want. No longer do you hope that you will be successful with an endeavor. You just know that you will. And then let everything else play out the way it normally does. If you know that you will get everything you want, even if you don't know the way there, you will experience life the way I experienced that wholesale account just being brought to me when I wasn't even thinking about it. I have so many examples of this as I go through my history. They're so common that they're not even memorable. You know, I have to think about things to come up with things that are really like, whoa, like when I think about that story and how weird and improbable it is that it would go down that way. You know, the difference between traditionally successful people is attitude. And that's all this really comes down to at the end of the day. So I don't know. I hope I did a decent job illustrating that. I don't know. Leave me a comment.